Hi there. It's the Nicolas Sequeira coronavirus special. Hello, all you beautiful internet people. Considering that I'm bored as heck, I figure, why not do a video? Why not do another review? As I speak, it is 9:51 in the morning, and I'm very tired. But I figured I should talk about this, as I figure it's kind of an important subject. And here's the deal. I look at the ads on TV these days, and what I realize, and I'm trying not to put coronavirus into any of my comics in this period, because even though this gives me a great opportunity to work on some comics and get them knocked out of the way, and I have to actually, this epidemic is great for people who work at home like me, but not so great for people who don't use credit cards like me. I only have money, so I can only spend physical money at a physical store. So here's the thing. I look at the ads on TV, and I think these won't be relevant in 5 years. In 5 years, these will be looked back on like fallout shelter ads are looked back on now. Because think about it. People will look back at these advertisements, which these days are, supposed to be very wholesome and everything. And, like, we are the heroes, and we've got, soon there will be more picnics, and people will just look back on them and be like, this was a period in American history or world history rather, when the entire world was inconvenienced by inept scientists and pathetic governments, and nobody knew what to do. And it was a pathetic and boring and stupid time when everyone was an idiot. And they'll be looked back on like fallout shelter ads. And you might say, this isn't like the Cold War. The Cold War was preventable. The Cuban Missile Crisis was preventable, whereas a virus, that's not preventable. But it is preventable. And it's the scientists and the government's job. It's their responsibility to take care of the thing. So, if they're not doing their job, this is as silly as Khrushchev and Kennedy. And just as pathetic. Like, the frickin', and humanity has a tendency to lie to itself about morbid situations, so, just like how these days it's like, we are the heroes, we salute the pizza guy, the same as Duck and Cover, he's a little cartoon turtle, but he means like frickin' World War III. And furthermore, I think these ads will be looked back on like, once a vaccine is developed and coronavirus isn't a threat anymore, everyone will think, wow, this is just like those shitty old fallout shelter instruction things that, like, no one cares about anymore, because no one is in the threat of being a World War III. It will be the same. You might not believe me, but that's my prediction, and I think that's gonna be how it turns out. All these profound ads that they're making these days that they think are going to have like a huge impact, they're just going to become obsolete once this whole thing is over. That's just how it'll happen. So sorry, Dunkin' Donuts. Looks like your ad with the alien who doesn't have pants won't be relevant in a few years' time. Which brings me, since we're on the subject of the Cold War, this brings me to Twilight Zone and Maple Street. And I've talked about Twilight Zone before, but I figured I should talk about Maple Street. Now, one of the things everyone always says makes the Twilight Zone so good is that it wasn't afraid to talk about relevant topics. But I wouldn't say that's what makes it good. I like it because there's robots and shit. I don't care about socially relevant science fiction. And again, that's not what science fiction is supposed to be. Science fiction is just speculative fiction. You can have swamp beasts or stuff. I like Creature from the Black Lagoon. I like, and I think that's one of the reasons Outer Limits kind of wasn't as popular, because it wasn't as edgy as Twilight Zone. Like, it was just like, here's an alien, deal with it. And, the alien is very special effects, but there's no commentary on the human condition or anything. I mean, I guess there is in the Martin Landau one. I mean, is that coal miner really Martin Landau? I can't even believe that. But anyway, my frickin' headphones are falling apart at the seams here. But here's the thing. Okay, with Maple Street. The thing about Maple Street is that it's just a dumb episode. Right? Now, consider for a minute that you're on Maple Street. The power goes out, okay? Now, the first thing you decide is that there's, like, freaking aliens. Do you decide that, or do you just think, oh, it's a blackout? Those are common in the 50s. They don't have very good generators. Okay. So the cars don't work either. So, do you think it's aliens? Or do you just think, oh, we're within easy walking distance of a major city because we live in suburbia, so let's just walk down there and ask them to turn our power back on or something. Easy enough. And not only that, I mean, does Maple Street have any cross streets? I mean, think about this, right? There's, like, so many good episodes about people who are isolated, like, frickin', Mr. Beavis and, frickin' Pioneer Guy in the future, and, frickin' Death Valley, they got the frickin' bars of gold, they're out there, they're starving, and that's cool, because they're isolated, and they don't have, like, an easy solution to their problem. Then you got, like, frickin' the Maple Street residents, and they're just like, oh, that guy who we just sent down to the city to figure out what was going on, he's an alien, let's kill him. And, the problem is that the metaphors are so obvious that the characters end up not being relatable because they're all idiots. No one acts realistically. Julius Moomer is one of the residents for some reason. And they're about as relatable as the guys in Return of the Archons who just go crazy at the Red Hour. I mean, these fellas obviously aren't sane. And furthermore, I thought science fiction was supposed to be about, like, the future and, like, what humanity can accomplish and what we'll encounter. But instead, Maple Street is dated because there aren't any communists anymore. There's no more Red Scare. And the episode is pathetic. It's a pathetic episode. Would I say the Twilight Zone is victim to the fallacy whereby, some episodes are, like, praised as, like, godly and, like, other ones go completely ignored? Yes. It's very, very victim to that fallacy. Let me tell you what I mean. There's another episode, and it's called The Shelter. And it's just about this fallout shelter, and everyone goes insane, just like Maple Street. And it's stupid. Because at the beginning, Rod Serling's like, what you're about to see is a nightmare. And it's like, nah, I don't think anyone's scared of that anymore. Because communists don't exist anymore. No one's scared of that, and no one has fallout shelters. Would I say some episodes of The Twilight Zone are, like, absolutely timeless? Yes, sure. The mannequin one, fine. Taki Tina, fine. some of the episodes that are liked, I also like. Some of the episodes that are liked, I frickin' hate. And some of the episodes that no one knows about are like the best ones. You take an episode that's kind of like Maple Street except good. From The Outer Limits, a feasibility study whereby this small little town, or one street in a little town, is transported to this alien planet. Now, just like in Maple Street, the cars don't work, and, the power's off, and there are other odd occurrences, but it actually makes sense because they're on another planet and not within walking distance of a city. And when they go past the city limits, they see these bizarre, smoky aliens. And it's not a metaphor for communism or anything. It's just about these aliens that experiment on humans. And it's way better than Maple Street, but nobody knows about a feasibility study because very few people watch The Outer Limits, even though it's a classic series. And while it doesn't have as much to say about the human condition, a feasibility study is pretty good. And I won't spoil the ending here, but rest assured the ending of that one, while hopeless, sure, is miles above Maple Street, okay? Just let me say that, okay? If all your science fiction does is just point out, oh, yeah, McCarthyism, stupid, all I can think is, wow, this episode is dated because Joseph McCarthy was an idiot and you people believed him. You can say, those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. I say, just don't be a dumbass, and then history will go okay. Just learn basic ethics. And don't listen to Joseph McCarthy. And again, you can say that Twilight Zone is a product of its time, but I expect science fiction to be not a product of its time, but, something that actually is a little progressive and means something and comes up with new ideas instead of just saying, here's the way things are. Look, it's the frickin' Maple Street people. It's stupid, because the Maple Street people are stupid. And how am I supposed to identify with them, right? There is a better episode. There's a much better episode of Twilight Zone. And just like The Shelter and Maple Street and whatever, it involves Cold War paranoia, but it's actually good. It's called More Pallbearer. And I've never seen a review of this one, even though it's very good. And Paul is a very fun and interesting and cool character. Now here's the plot, okay? This rich guy named Paul lives in the city, and he makes this elaborate fake fallout shelter in the basement of this skyscraper because he has 3 people who he wants to torture from his past. He wants to keep them down there with him forever, and they can drink rationed water and rationed food and everything. And one of them is his teacher. One of them is like a priest, and one of them is like a Air Force general or something. And all of them think that Paul is a little bastard, and he's a giant embarrassment to humanity. And Paul basically makes his fake environment, and he makes the entire thing up. There is no threat from the Soviets; it doesn't exist. But as it turns out, all 3 of the victims, they just leave because they don't want to spend the rest of their lives with Paul. So they think that, we're going to die, but we'll die happy. And Paul comes out, and he's like crazy because his illusion was so good, and the fake broadcast was so good and everything, that he thinks he's in this apocalyptic wasteland. Well, meanwhile, he's actually just everything's all right, but he's crazy, so he thinks that he's in the frickin' barren rubble. And that one is so good. And why doesn't anyone ever talk about it? Because all Maple Street does is say, here's how stuff is, and present like this pathetic view of the world. More Pallbearer does not look at society as a whole and poke at it and laugh at it. It just says, here's this one delusional man, and he's created this hoax, essentially, because he's paranoid. One More Pallbearer actually says something about the Cold War mindset. We're paranoid, we're stupid, we're egotistical, and we have no idea what's going on. And I think One More Pallbearer is a lot better than Maple Street. And again, the shelter is not scary anymore. So, if you're thinking, oh, I'm gonna exploit this event to make money off it, I'm gonna write a script for like a coronavirus movie. No one will care. In 10 years, your movie will be looked on as dated. And that's why I only put coronavirus in my comics once and then said, no more of this, because in a few years, no one will care. Why does everyone care about, frickin' Maple Street? It's like, it's not that good. It's not good. Mainly just because everyone is a moron, and I can't identify with an episode where everyone's a moron. And furthermore, it's just lazy. Do I look at Rod Serling and like him because he's freaking, oh, I'm the freaking super freaking, I'm political and do political stuff and challenge the censors. It's like, nah, I like him because he's got a cool haircut and he has an interesting dialect. And, I appreciate a writer who kind of appears in his own work in a fun and interesting way. Do I care about the outdated politics? No, I don't care about Maple Street because, now the internet exists. And I mean, the Maple Street residents, even though they don't have internet, they have feet. And all they can do is just point at each other and say, you're the Martian. And that's just pathetic. It's just a very pathetic episode. All it says is that the Cold War was a pathetic time. The same way that I assume any media now will just point out how pathetic this situation is and how it's an inconvenience to the world and how everyone is acting stupid because of it. It's the same with Maple Street, and it's the same with the little duck and cover turtle. It's all the same. It's all the frickin' same. Should you exploit history? Maybe, if you have a really good idea, and if you think that your metaphor is actually, cool and it can't be picked up very well. But with Maple Street, it's so obvious, it's pathetic, It's like, these are the aliens is the communists. It's like, come up with an actual story instead of just trying to frickin', because of course, it's like, all that does is just make me not like the 50s and 60s, and it's like, it's very sad, because there's some great things about the 50s. You got Elvis, you got Chuck Berry, but the frickin', frickin' Maple Street, it's beyond words even. I can't even imagine actually thinking that episode is good, because why do people like it? There's the question. Why do people like it? It's not a relevant topic anymore, and personally, I like interesting sci-fi, like Star Trek. Star Trek doesn't say, here's the 60s. It says, here's the 2200s, and they're way more advanced and cooler than the 60s are. And, I don't know. The 60s are pretty cool. But the 60s aren't cool on Maple Street, where everyone is a moron and an idiot and doesn't know how to perform basic functions like walk down to the city and ask them about the power failure. So anywho, that's my thoughts on Maple Street. And, will coronavirus explode into Maple Street? Maybe. Except then the threat won't be from, the frickin' Sputniks. It'll be from the virus. So, again, not even the same problem. But, we're observing similar things to those little frickin' fallout shelter frickin' garbage here in American society. Because, of course, consumerism changes to adapt to the times. 1 month in, all the ads are coronavirus themed. 1 month out, they'll all be non-coronavirus themed. That's been my skinny on how Maple Street works. And I know I'm not the most exciting video essayist. I don't have many graphics. I used to splice in a lot of graphics, but I'm short on software right now. I'm short on editing. I can't edit my videos. So if you enjoy just watching me, sit out here and talk to you, the viewer, whom, I figure to chat with once in a while, and then buy some comics. I got a super duper PDF sale going on right now. $3 per comic. Yeah. And that'll give me something to do during this boring and pathetic time. So, thanks for watching. You don't gotta subscribe, but if you really like this video, then go ahead and subscribe. And it's all up to you. So yeah, alright, great. Done. Frickin' Maple Street. It's the red hour.